Yo guys, what's up? Gimsor here. Another Season 16 build guide. This right here is your Shrine Monk for speed 100 plus. This is basically the best setup right now for speeds with the Furious Charge Barbarian to be giving him the most damage possible. So a quick overview of the gear that we want. Since we have permanent Ring of Grandeur, you're going to be running 3 pieces of Innas, which is chest, pants, and boots. You'll be running Lefebvre's, Eye of Peshkov, a Hellfire Amulet, but you could also, if you don't have any Hellfires farmed, you can run a Rondel's Locket there. You need the Bounty Gloves, Gloves of Worship, Strong Arm Bracers, Vigilante Belt, Oculus Ring, Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac, Ingium, and Crystal Fist. So let's go ahead and look at the cube. Here you want Avarian Spear of Lycander. So this basically provides buffs for you and the party throughout the rifts if you are killing demons. Nemesis Bracers, you're a Shrine Monk, so you will be clicking pylons. And I like to run the Star of Askranth here to prevent fire damage because it seems to cause the most problems in greater rifts. So basically your role is to lead the group in these speeds, and basically you're providing buffs when the group is with you. You're providing damage reduction and basically damage buffs for the Barbarian. So real quick, we'll take a look at the gear and what stats you want on each one. So for Lefebvre's, you want to have the secondary as close to 50% as possible, but it's not a huge deal, but you want to mainly focus on cooldown reduction here. As for your helmet, all survivability, so anything vitality, all res, vitality, life per hit, vitality armor, things of that nature are fine. And the secondary, you want to have that as close to 50% as possible. As for amulet, once again, you're just mainly focusing on cooldown here, and then anything survivability. Your gloves, once again, cooldown. These roll kind of weird. It's always attack speed they roll with, I think, and life per hit. So, or there's some random combination, but they always roll with it, and it's ideally here you just want cooldown. As for your chest, pretty much anything is fine. Mine is rolled for meta support, so I mean that's fine. For your bracers, anything for survivability here, so vitality, all resistance, and then as you see here, my secondary reduces damage from ranged attacks, and then ideally you want to have this secondary roll of the knockback proc as close to 30% as possible. For Vigilante Belt, you're focusing on max cooldown reduction here, and then survivability, so anything in terms of all resistance, life, vitality, things like that. Your Oculus Ring, once again, cooldown, and then attack speed is fine, and then vitality. Like I said, my rings were set up for my meta support monks, so they have health globes on them, so that's one thing you could be looking out for while you're doing these runs. So yeah, Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac, attack speed, you will roll the crit chance off to a socket, so you'll have crit chance, cooldown, resource cost reduction. Pants, you want Dex Vite all res ideally, but if you have a secondary resistance, it's just Dex Vite armor. Ingium here, you want as much cooldown as you can get, and then preferably like that 8% damage, that would be vitality, or even attack speed would be fine. For boots, Dex Vite all res, and then for your Crystal Fist, once again, cooldown, and the secondary here rolls between 40 and 50%, so the closer to 50%, the better. As for gems, you're going to be running, you only need to get Toxin to level 25, Ice Blink to level 25, and then you're running Goguk, and you can level that as high as you want. In terms of gear, or abilities here, you're going to be running Crippling Wave Tsunami. This procs your Ice Blink. Cyclone Strike, this will be pulling enemies when you get to an elite, it will be pulling enemies towards the elite. Breath of Heaven Zephyr, since you have Eye of Peshkov, the cooldown is reduced by up to 50%, so this is for movement speed, which is buffing your Fierce Charge Barbarian's DPS. Mantra of Conviction Annihilation, this is a damage increase for the whole party, and also when you kill an enemy that's affected by this mantra, it gives a 30% movement speed increase. So this increases your barbarian's DPS as well. Dashing strike, blinding speed. This is for mobility, and the cold rune here is for 40% dodge chance after you dash for 4 seconds. Inner Sanctuary, Temple of Protection. You will be putting this down once you get to an elite. So basically, your allies within it cannot be CC'd. For your passives, you're going to be running Near Death Experience, Resolve, Exalted Soul, and Beacon of Utar. If you're finding yourself, there's another thing here, depending on how much spirit you're using. You could run, instead of Exalted Soul, you could run Chant of Resonance, because with Mantra of Conviction here, when you activate it, it increases the damage bonus. So if you read there, the passive, enemies within 30 yards of you take 8% damage. But if you want to be really super tryharding, you can be activating this through while your DPS are killing ads, and that will give, instead of an 8% damage increase, a 16% damage increase. So I've had a lot of people asking me how exactly you play this build. So when you're running, so this monk is set up ideally for the new 4-man meta speeds, which people are running between 95 up to, depending on Paragon and gear, up to like 115 plus on non-season. So you are basically the deciding factor of how fast your rifts go. And what you need to be doing is you need to be scouting ahead while the support barbarian stays with your Furious Charge and Impale DH. You are scouting pylons in the greater rifts. So once you get to those pylons, since you're a shrine monk, you have your nemesis bracers. So you will click the pylon, spawn the elite, drop a sync, and then just make sure you have basically mantra. You can numb lock it or whatever, or not mantra, Breath of Heaven. You want that up at all times to be giving your Fierce Charge barbarian the most damage possible. What you also want to do is be cycloning, not too much so, but cyclone. That way you pull all the enemies around with in what is it, a 16-yard radius, pulling those in, because the more density around you, the more damage your barbarian is going to be doing, because he stacks a lot of area damage. So when I say that you're leading the group and a lot of the runs, the time is dependent on you, you need to be kind of situationally aware of what's going on around you. So ideally, when you get to an elite pack and say you're setting up on it, after you drop your sync and everything, keep an eye on that elite's health bar. When the elite is about 15% health, you need to be moving on forward and searching for either the next elite pack or the next pylon, and then setting up on that. So you don't want to be sitting there waiting till the elite is dead and then moving, because you'll be slowing down the group. You want to be scouting ahead. So, I mean, other than that, that is the build in a nutshell. There's a couple things you can change up, but if you change up some of the things on this, you will be losing damage for your DPS. So at times you can get a little squishy here. So one thing you can do, you will lose a little bit of damage for the group, but either strong arms or the nemesis that you have cubed, you can swap one of those for spirit guards. But ideally it'd be strong arms, because you need to be the one popping the pylons and getting the elites. So, I mean, other than that, it's really just you are leading the party from elite to elite. Whenever you are killing an elite, once you see that enemy or that elite's health bar at 15% or so, you need to be moving on, scouting the next pylon or elite. And that is basically it. And like I said, once you're on that elite, you want to be making sure that you're spamming Breath of Heaven as much as possible. So I would either macro it, or if you're worried about blizzards, terms of service, and things like that, I would macro it and just numb lock it. And a numb lock trick, you can find that on just Google or YouTube, numb lock trick Diablo 3. It basically just presses it for you. So other than that, like I said, when you're on an elite, spamming Breath of Heaven to keep your barbarian's movement speed up, dropping sync to provide damage mitigation for them, and cycloning enemies around you so you have more density close to you for area damage procs for the barbarian. Other than that, you're just attacking with Crippling Wave or Tsunami, or Crippling Wave Tsunami, because that is, since it is a cold skill, it will be proccing your Ice Blink. So other than that, I mean, that is literally it. you are the determining factor for the most part how fast your riffs are, other than how fast your DPS can kill the elites. One thing to note with this build is, so with Dashing Strike you only have 2 charges. So say you're killing yellow packs, once the elite is dead, Ingeom won't proc unless all the yellow minions that spawn with the elite are dead. And most of the time, if your group is running properly, you won't be killing those minions. So sometimes you can kind of run low on dashing strikes, but a lot of the time though, there will be blues that you're killing, and once the blue elites are dead, your Ingeom will be procced and you have infinite dash for, 10 seconds or whatever it is that your Ingeom rolls between 8 and 10. So with that being said, I'm going to wrap up this guide. And then, one last thing I didn't go over. As far as gems, you want diamonds and everything. And then in your weapons, you can run life per hit to give you a little bit more survivability. But other than that, that is the build in a nutshell. You can be a little squishy at times, but ideally, your group should be running whatever greater rift you can complete in between 2 to 3 minutes. At the most, 3.5 to 4. So survivability a lot of times isn't an issue because things are going to be dying fast enough that you don't have to worry about them dealing damage to you. So with that being said, guys, that is the Shrine Monk in a nutshell. I don't have a group right now, so I cannot actually show you actual gameplay, but basically I went over the gist of what you need to do, and then after that it's just learning to keep an eye on the elites that you're at. Once they're below 15% or 15% or so, you need to move because they're going to be getting ready to die. You need to be up ahead setting up the next pulls. So after the elites are 15%, they're getting ready to die, you go ahead till you find the next elite pack and or pylon. So that will conclude this guide. If you guys like what you saw, feel free to drop a like below. This build guide will be on Diablo Fans and YouTube. So until next time, guys, have a good one. Peace.